With Bee and Puppycat finally having its official release on Netflix, I'm excited to follow up on my previous video about how Bee became a robot and talk more about the robotic life in the universe, as well as other characters who may be robots, including Mooley, Cardamon's mother, and even Puppycat himself. My name is Deepcut. Hit that subscribe button because we're going to be doing a lot more Bee and Puppycat theory videos that you guys are not going to want to miss, and I've been holding some of these in since Season 2 leaked a few years ago. Keep in mind, however, that for these theories, I will be referencing the plot as it is presented in the official Netflix series, and only reference the original YouTube series and changes in the show's development if I feel it adds something important and isn't redundant. Most of the robotic life we see in the show seems to be built by Bee's father, though it is possible that robotic life started long before him and may be far-stretching in Bee and Puppycat's universe. There seems to be robots all over outer space, perhaps being designed by Bee's father as he travels through the universe on whatever adventures. As I explained in my previous video, Bee herself seems to have been born a human, and perhaps was rebuilt as a robot after a tragic accident in her childhood. Flashbacks allude to her being electrocuted, but some fans still believe that her fear of water comes from drowning in it as a human, not from electrical damage from water as a robot. In the same flashbacks where Bee almost shocks herself as a child, we do see Puppycat supervising Bee in the water as well, where she doesn't seem to be afraid. Perhaps this was the accident that befell her without supervision instead, and why she had to be remade as a robot. It would explain this scene's placement so quickly after we see her almost electrocute herself, giving it a more sad undertone if Puppycat wasn't supervising her in the water. I do not believe Bee is the first person to be turned into a robot by Bee's father either, but more on that in a minute. First, I want to talk about Mooley, whose design always seemed a bit odd to me, even back in the original YouTube series. He had a similarly simple cartoon design that other aliens had, but he had some hints of being a machine as well, though at the time we were only just about to learn that Bee herself was a robot. In the Netflix series, the idea that he's a robot seems much more overt. He claims that Bee and Deckard are the first people he's ever met outside of his boss, indicating he was likely built specifically to work here. Space is a place where everyone is running around working and trying to get a job done and get paid. Even as a baby, Bee's father had to be part of a group that hunted candy on random planets, competing for prizes against other candy hunters instead of actual cash. This is considered something of a lowly position in the universe, with Puppycat's teacher telling him that if he doesn't do well in school, this will be the only job available to him. I wouldn't be surprised if this was the way Bee's father had to make his money in order to fund all of his personal projects with his machines, with him traveling the universe and spreading robotic life for cash. Mooley, therefore, may be just one of many robots out there in the universe doing these little jobs and having not much reason to exist outside of that, mostly being built by Bee's father. Mooley's inside seems to get destroyed when he was being controlled by the space warlock children, with the robot shell of Bee on top of him indicating that they were in a similar state, both emptied out of what made them work, with Bee's little sentient robot pieces using the crystals to become their own different versions of her. Mooley, as far as we know, did not have tiny sentient robots inside of him, but like Bee, he still may have somehow retained some of the sentience from his previous state. I very much expect this empty robot Bee to slowly develop her own unique version of herself, a little bit of every piece that was inside of her, perhaps not becoming as cohesive as she once was, but her own little happy version of herself no longer conflicted by the pieces in her that couldn't agree with one another. Mooley likewise may develop in the same way, his empty shell finding ways to become sentient again, perhaps with the help of Robot Bee or by doing an experiment on his shell similar to what was done on Bee. Like Bee, I believe that the Space Outlaw and Violet may also be robots who were once human or something like that. First and foremost, I want to put out the evidence that these two characters may be robotic in some way. In the episode Funny Lying, Puppycat has flashbacks to his life as the Space Outlaw. Both as Puppycat and as the Space Outlaw, we see his eyes glitch out like a robot the way Bee's does when damaged. While the glitches are a byproduct of the hallucination flowers affecting Puppycat's memory, we see those glitching eyes in the first episode of the series as well, in Puppycat's story of how the Space Warlocks tried to capture him when he went to meet the Space Princess in the meadow. Violet not only has strong proof that she is a robot, but also evidence that she became a robot later in life. We do see her as a kid in the flashbacks, indicating that she grows into an adult, but as an adult her voice is suddenly robotic sounding, both in the flashbacks on Team Puppycat and at the end of the volume when she wakes up and talks to Puppycat and Cardamon. When Cardamon feeds her a bit of the wish donut, we also see her insides glow, with robotic imagery similar to Bee when she glows. When she is first introduced, she is in a coma with machines attached to her that we are meant to think are keeping her alive, but by the end of Volume 1 on Netflix, we know that the machines were actually what was keeping her asleep. These machines did the same thing to Cardamon, however, and we don't have any evidence that he is a robot. The machines keep Violet plugged into the ship, and I imagine that she is doing something similar to the little robots inside of Bee. This ship is of course the ship that Violet, Puppycat, and Bee's dad used to travel space in search of space candy. For whatever reason, it needed to be fixed or repaired, and Puppycat left it on Earth while it was undergoing that process. Violet, as a smaller robot, could probably use her consciousness to influence the ship, making it run more independently, and perhaps gaining its own personality, the way other robots like Bee seems to from the smaller robots influencing it. Like Bee, the ship may have needed more than one mind to program it, and Cardamon was chosen to be the other half, robotic or not, for whatever reason. Even more evidence supporting this idea comes from the wish donut Cardamon gave her. Eating the donut as a whole would have granted her wish, but as Mooley explains, getting part of it makes it only partially true or causes weird things to happen. For Violet, she begins to cry strange blobs, and in them we see images of things important to the show. The first blobs mostly have images of Puppycat's ship, emphasizing that what she wishes for is for it to be complete, and whatever process that requires her and Cardamon to be finished. Later orbs would have all sorts of shapes, including characters she knows well like Puppycat, and characters we have no reason to think she knows like Mooley, perhaps further indicating that he was built by Bee's father, and Violet knew him that way. Like Bee, I believe these two characters were possibly human at some point, but became roboticized or had their brains scanned, probably around the time they began to work with Bee's father for Team Puppycat. It is possible that they were created by Bee's father and had false memories implanted by him, but their childhood memories of being in the classroom do line up to some degree with reality, considering the Puppycat's older teacher is out to get him. Like her, though, we should assume that Puppycat is an unreliable narrator, not because she is right and that he is a bad person, but because Puppycat himself cannot exactly remember everything that happened to him. He wakes up after nights of dreams with cryptic clues and tries to write them down so he can piece together who he really was. Even things in the past as Puppycat have become blurry for him, being away from the island for so long that he forgot what it was and who the people were. This is because, like Bee, I think the Space Outlaw was perhaps made up of several little robots or creatures, each influencing his bigger robotic self, perhaps several little Puppycats. This would explain why Bee has dreams where there are several Puppycats, each with their own little memories and personalities. There are contradictions for this, particularly when it comes to the flashback showing a young space outlaw making his wish, but that itself is a key theme in the show that robots are used to explore. The show is very much about people desiring to become something bigger and better than they are now, but feeling so limited that it is like they are robots, incapable of growing. Hence, Bee herself being a robot who literally cannot grow. And somewhere along the way, I think all of these conflicting ideas will start to make some sort of sense, maybe even in my next few theory videos where I dive deeper into the past of the Space Outlaw and other characters to follow, so subscribe so you don't miss it. And let me know if there are any other cool robot hints or possibilities that you think I missed in the comments down below. And if you want to talk more about Bee and Puppycat while waiting for my next theory video, come talk with us in the Cartoon Universe Discord server. Links as always in the pinned comment down below. Just make sure you ask for the Netflix role so you can see the Bee and Puppycat channel. See you guys there.